Which fictional characters have you tried to emulate or incorporate into your personality? Uncle Iroh. Inner peace, patience, and understanding are all virtues of mine because of this character. I can't think of anyone in particular, but more of a type, the guy who's always quiet, but when he says something, everyone listens. I wanted to be like that when I was a teen. Didn't work, everyone just thought I was a moody tosser. Lol. When a kid asks me a question, I try to give a sensible answer instead of abusing their ignorance to amuse myself. I learned this from Atticus Finch. Soren. My friends were not amused. Johnny Bravo. I guess he's not fictional, but after I watched the documentary about Fred Rogers, I really began to think about how he treated people. Obviously it's tough to put into practice as the man is basically a saint, but it does help to remind you that everyone else out there is going through some shit too, and it's best to be open and understanding if you can. Walter White. Paranabara. Drizzt. Kaladin Stormbalist. And most unfortunately, Chandler Bing. Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China or Rick O'Connell from the Mummy franchise. Chewbacca. Vegeta. Hank Moody. Dr. House. Less trying and more naturally similar, or so many tell me. 12th Doctor. Steve Rogers. Doesn't need to be the flashy center of attention, humble, dependable, kind, just, and at the end of the day just wants to live a happy, quiet life with his true love. What show or movie do you think had the coolest, most interesting characters? Avatar. The Last Airbender. The Sopranos. The Breaking Bad Better Call Saul El Caminoverse. Inception. The Dark Knight. Exceptional in all aspects, IMO. Cowboy Bebop. Peaky Blinders. Alfie Solomons. Hunter x Hunter has pretty awesome foreshadowing with its characters and their arcs. It makes great use of actually using character flaws and motivations. Scrubs went deep sometimes, as Dr. Cox. That episode where he has a bunch of patients die on him and spirals is quite the rollercoaster. Same with the one about Brendan Fraser's ghost. Everyone is interconnected beautifully. The Wire, hands down. Fringe. Go watch The Third Man. Yes, it's an old movie people may or may not be into, but it absolutely speaks to this question. First, you have Holly Martins, a typical American raised on Wild West archetypes. He sees everything through a black and white lens. Then you have Harry Lime, his old friend who has experienced the morally gray parts of life. Together, they teach the importance of when moral absolutism is necessary and when it isn't. Slapshot. I will rave about Deep Space Nine until the day I die. Seeing all of the characters develop into completely unexpected roles, yet doing so realistically and respectively, was absolutely incredible to watch. You really get the sense that these are people with complex personalities and histories. By the end of it you're left with this bittersweet feeling that although everything didn't work out as you'd hoped, it still was all for the best. Breaking Bad. Hope I don't get flamed for this, but men who have been asked to go steady by a significant other, only to have that same person change their mind and dump you, what was their reason and how did you react? I think she's a pretty rotten person. Seems like she was trying to lock you down until something better came along. The fact that she even had the audacity to come back and ask you for relationship advice gives the impression that she likes to have emotional control over people, whether she knows it or not. Obviously she's not healthy for you, let her go and move on. You good, man. You finally met the real her. Nothing you could have done to prevent it. People often fall in love with their idea of a person or a relationship before they have a clear picture of the reality of being in a relationship with that person, and over time, reality rarely lives up to the fairy tale they imagined it would be, so they feel let down, and they fall out of love, only to then go on to repeat that same mistake again and again by falling for another fantasy they've dreamed up of greener pastures elsewhere. Not your fault, and no need to look back wondering what you should have done differently to hold her interest longer. Good riddance to her, and cheers to new beginnings for you. She told me that I was too perfect. Later, 4 years later, found out that what actually happened is that she was lying to me about wanting to be sexually active because she thought that's what I wanted, and doing those things made her uncomfortable and started her body dysmorphia. Or whatever she called it. Which I mean half checks out half doesn't, cause she had a new boyfriend like a month later, but has since come close to transitioning, going by a new name, shaving her head etc. Suck too, we were young, but I saw a fun future there. No offense, but everything was not perfect. She likely already met someone else and wanted to break it off. She spent a year with you and decided she didn't see a long-term future with you anymore, and broke it off. As for the messages about your opinions on other guys, I'd tell her to F off. All in all it sucks, but it's not a mystery as to what happened. Just because she was the one who initially wanted something serious, after a year had passed, she realized you weren't the one she wanted to settle down with. It's painful and I'm sorry that happened, but obviously she wasn't the one you'd want to commit to anyway, since she wasn't in it 100%, so better to cut ties sooner rather than later. I'm the dumper in this situation, and it just happens. When you wanted to spend every waking moment with them, and the next you want to sleep in the day of the next date. After a while, it becomes unenjoyable, and it's when I realized that this wasn't the person that I wanted to spend my life with. I hope I got my point across without sounding like an asshole. Poorly lol. My ex, she was intensely into me right off the bat, like really into me. I was 29, her 23, so I figured that was part of it. She had also got out of a relationship 3 months prior, so that was a red flag. She was persistent, I slow crawled it a few months. Wanted to see if it was genuine or rebound, thought she'd give up, but didn't. Fast forward a few months and we're together, a few more, and she tells me how in love with me she is. A year later she just up and ghosts me. Disappears for a week, no contact. Text me out of the blue to say we are done, but won't tell me why or discuss it at all. Then back to ghosting. I'm not proud of how I acted, I was really hurt, this was only 2 months ago. Man it sucks, but you will be okay. Try to stay focused on other things and just know you can't control other people. While it's good to work on our own flaws, this was not your fault. Nor was it mine. Sometimes people are just really fucked up, and they bring their fuckiness into the lives of others. All we can do is learn from the experience, find people who actually love us. Stay strong, life will go on. It's not easy to just stop thinking about them, but with time it will hurt. I know I'm a bit against the crowd in this one, but she isn't a terrible person. Breakups suck, but it happens. Everyone is seeking someone who completes them. If she cheated, then that's a bit different. If she was honest about everything, then she grew up some more throughout your year together and decided it was time to move on. Some people build up this pedestal about a person before dating, and it turns out they aren't that person. Some people change or grow. I've gone through similar, we all have. Again, breakups suck. I don't think there is anything you could have done to prevent it. Continue to grow as a person, become interesting and learn some skills, and before you know it, you'll find someone and be happy again. My story is after 6 years, my ex decided to start hiding she was flirting with her guy friend. I eventually had to break it off after finding some texts twice. I was devastated. I took a year off from dating. Tried to rebuild myself and figure it all out. She threw everything away for a guy who didn't seem to have any of the qualities she wanted, he was just a guy version of her. Anyway, I'm about 2 years out of that relationship, and I am the happiest I have ever been with a beautiful girl, and we're already talking marriage after 6 months. You were together for a year. She didn't just suddenly change her mind. You guys tried it and it didn't work out, so it goes. How long would you stay in a job you hate because it pays well? I would stay until I have enough saved up to make a smooth, comfortable transition to a job that I actually like. I wouldn't leave unless an actual better opportunity came up. One nice thing about having a job you get is you grow an appreciation for the time outside of work. I had a job I couldn't stand for 5 years. I did my best to learn as much as I could and save money up for the day I decided to leave to my next opportunity. This question is super relevant to me. My job is super stressful and bad right now. I hate getting out of bed in the morning. I need something different. The issue is that I make really good money, $400K US, and I just got divorced. I owe alimony, child support, kids' private schools for the next 3 years. So I got to stay in job for at least another 3 years. It would depend on the alternatives. I'd only stay until I could find something else. Did it for an entire year. I was pulling $5,700 a week post-tax. The stress changed me into a different person and was the root cause of the breakup of my 6-year relationship. Until I find one that pays more. Forever. I mean, it depends how much I hate and how much it pays. If it's high paying but 40 hours a week with no take-home work, I'll probably stick around till something objectively better comes along. If it's the kind of job I'm working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, I'd start job hunting as soon as I could. To me, it's all about work-life balance. I can do most jobs 8 hours a day and go home and forget it. It's when the workload heavily encroaches on my life that I get stressed. I'm not the kind of guy who is ever going to have a dream job or truly enjoy my work, so a 9-5 is a 9-5. 8 years so far. The problem is I work in coal mining, so I don't expect it to last the rest of my life, almost finished in a degree, and I'm preparing myself for the massive pay cut and lifestyle change. Going on 9 years now. Until I retire. All work sucks. Enjoy the evenings, weekends and vacation. Assuming you don't work a bunch of overtime, you spend about 2,000 hours a year at work. There's a lot more hours in the not at work category, even accounting for sleep. 2 to 3 years. Apparently 23 years. You don't hate your job, you're just bored. That's great. I had a job that was salaried, no OT pay, and expected close to 4,000 hours of work per year in weekly travel. People were having breakdowns and it was literally killing me. Massive vitamin deficiencies, stress symptoms, hormone imbalances, insomnia, etc. Be grateful. Get on your knees and praise God that you can collect a paycheck for boredom. Be the best bored worker you can be. Excel where you are and endear yourself to your coworkers and employers. Jobs like yours don't come by every day. Hang on as well as you can. Then, one day, when you find something that you're sure you really enjoy, you can move on. I've been around the world and worked a lot of jobs, and I can tell you from experience that most jobs are miserable. You'd pay them if it was always fun. Being paid well only to be bored, not to be screamed at by clients, or forced to fly to 3 cities in 4 days, or spend 16-hour days on construction sites, or wade through mud, or get shot at, or scrub shit is an amazing blessing. At 21, you do not yet know what hatred really is. I see other posts mentioning having life-breaking but well-paying jobs like I did. I fully agree that no job is worth your health or your soul. I've turned down higher-paying jobs because of the stress they would add. I agree with that sentiment. At 21, your complaints of boredom are so minor as to be silly to those who have been divorced, relocated, or have stress-induced illnesses. If your only complaint is boredom, be grateful and hang in. What's an amazing paycheck? Probably can find better elsewhere. You can be picky looking now because you got a stable income. Don't let fear rule your quality of life. Ask me how I know. 13 years in a job that destroyed me in the last 3. 16 years in a marriage that destroyed me in the last year. Until I find a job I really like or have a solid exit strategy. Then ask for raises until you become too expensive and they say no. Going on 3 years.